In WWE, everyone dreams of the spotlight, but behind the bright lights lie bitter truths the company would rather keep hidden. Not everyone who falls is honored. Some deaths are completely ignored, without a single tribute or memorial video, as if they never existed. Why such deafening silence? Let's start with the first name, Viscera, the giant who once shook the ring, only to be forgotten by WWE without a trace of remorse. Viscera, the WWE giant forgotten in silence. Nelson Frazier Jr., better known to WWE fans as Viscera, was a towering figure who stood through multiple eras of the company. Standing over 6 feet 9 inches and weighing more than 500 pounds, he was impossible to miss. And yet, when he passed away, WWE responded with cold silence, as if he had never been there at all. Viscera wasn't just a massive presence in the ring. He was a true performer with many memorable phases throughout his career. From his early days as Mabel, the heavy-hitting member of Men on a Mission, to becoming King of the Ring in 1995, later transforming into the Dark Enforcer of the Ministry of Darkness, and finally into the over-the-top world's largest love machine in the 2000s, he always stood out. Though he was never pushed as a top-tier superstar, Viscera remained a consistent part of weekly programming, facing big names and leaving an impression every time. But in 2008, WWE quietly released him from his contract. No farewell, no tribute, just the end of the road. After WWE, he continued wrestling on the independent circuit. But the same massive body that once gave him an edge also became his burden. Years of physical punishment took their toll, and on February 18, 2014, just days after turning 43, he died suddenly from a heart attack. That should have been a moment for WWE to honor a man who gave nearly his entire adult life to the company. Instead, what followed was a chilling silence. No tribute video, no moment of silence, just a brief note on WWE's official website. No mention of his contributions, no condolences on live television. It was as if he'd never set foot in a WWE ring. Viscera had no scandals, no backstage drama, no reason to be blacklisted. His only mistake? Maybe not being marketable enough to be remembered. But the story didn't end there. In 2015, his widow filed a lawsuit against WWE, alleging that the company ignored the long-term effects of brain trauma he suffered throughout his career. According to the complaint, he struggled with memory loss, cognitive issues, and heart complications, all linked to repeated in-ring impacts the company allegedly failed to address. As expected, WWE quickly denied the allegations, just as they have with similar lawsuits from former wrestlers. But regardless of the legal outcome, one truth remains. Viscera gave his body to the business, and when he passed, the company that once depended on him acted as if he never existed. And yet, the fans remember. They remember Mabel breaking apart tag teams, Viscera stalking the ring in black leather, the outrageous, bizarre, yet captivating moments he brought to our screens. His legacy isn't defined by championships or main events. It lives on in the memories of those who saw him stand in that ring, commanding, intense, and unforgettable. Matt Osborne, the forgotten dark clown. Among the many deaths WWE has chosen to ignore, Matt Osborne stands out as a painful symbol of neglect. Fans once knew him as Doink the Clown, a character both bizarre and unsettling, someone who brought discomfort not just to audiences, but to the very superstars who faced him in the ring. But behind the painted smile was a man quietly suffering, battling his own demons, and in the end, abandoned by the very system that once celebrated him. Osborne wasn't a rookie when he arrived in WWE. Long before donning the makeup of a twisted clown, he had wrestled in several major promotions, even appearing at WrestleMania I. He was a seasoned, technically sound performer. But it was in the early 90s, as Doink, that Osborne truly left a mark. Unlike the playful clown some might expect, his version of Doink was dark, eerie, a twisted figure who lurked, mocked, and struck fear into opponents. He once gave legends like Bret Hart, Randy Savage, and Crush serious trouble. But beneath the face paint was a man unraveling, plagued by addiction and isolation. Substance abuse haunted Osborne throughout his life. By late 1993, WWE's patience ran out. They cut ties with him, leaving the Doink character, now stripped of its original soul, to be played by others. The man who had created and defined Doink was coldly erased from WWE's picture. Osborne kept wrestling in smaller promotions like ECW and WCW. He tried to hang on, but the glory days never returned. Fading from the spotlight, he slipped further into the shadows, consumed by addiction and declining health. On June 28, 2013, Osborne was found dead in his home at the age of 55. The cause: an accidental drug overdose. However, the autopsy also noted that heart disease was a contributing factor. Regardless of the exact cause, it was a tragic end for someone who once stood under the brightest lights. 2 years later, Osborne's family filed a lawsuit against WWE and chairman Vince McMahon. They claimed that Osborne had endured repeated head trauma during his career, leading to depression, substance abuse, and ultimately, his untimely death. The lawsuit accused the company of willfully ignoring his declining health, all in the name of keeping the profit machine running. As expected, WWE denied all responsibility. Though the company later created wellness programs for former wrestlers, Osborne's family dismissed them as false hope. The lawsuit was eventually thrown out due to a lack of clear legal evidence that brain trauma directly caused his death. And then came WWE's typical response to uncomfortable history: silence. No tribute video. No on-air acknowledgement. Matt Osborne's name was erased. Occasionally, the character of Doink is referenced in nostalgic segments, but the man who gave that character life is never mentioned. The career and life of Matt Osborne now lie buried beneath the dust of history, as if he never existed. Yet his legacy once moved millions, and it still lingers in the memories of those who truly paid attention. Dino Bravo, the murdered WWE refuses to acknowledge. Among all the deaths WWE has chosen to ignore, none is more shocking than that of Dino Bravo. A brutal execution, a mysterious killing in the heart of Canada, and a suspicious silence from the very company to which he dedicated his career. Dino Bravo, born Adolfo Bresciano, was a familiar face in WWE during the late 1980s. He was heavily promoted as the world's strongest man, known for his powerful build, bleached blonde hair, and the tough, no-nonsense aura of a Canadian powerhouse. Though never the main event attraction, Bravo was a valuable piece of the puzzle, often used to elevate top stars like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. But when WWE shifted direction in 1992, focusing on younger, more energetic talent, Bravo, now in his 40s, was let go. He stepped into a trainer role, but it wasn't enough to make ends meet. Without the spotlight, Bravo began sliding into a darker, more dangerous path. According to numerous sources, Bravo became entangled with the Montreal Mafia and started smuggling contraband cigarettes, a highly lucrative black market business in Canada at the time. With his connections and organizational skills, he became a key player in cross-border operations. But working with the criminal underworld always comes with deadly risks. On March 10, 1993, Dino Bravo was found dead in his home in Laval, Quebec. He had been shot 17 times, a classic gang-style execution. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle, suggesting the killer was someone he knew. The case quickly gained attention but was never solved. Many believe Bravo was silenced, either for getting too deep into dangerous dealings or crossing someone within the organization. Rather than honoring or remembering him, WWE chose silence. No tribute video, no mention on television. The company distanced itself completely, as if he had never been a part of its history. The reason is clear: a former wrestler murdered in a suspected mafia hit is not the kind of story WWE wants associated with its image. Unlike many others who were celebrated after their deaths, Bravo was never acknowledged at any event. His face, his accomplishments, even his name were erased from the history WWE so often praises. A man who helped shape the golden era of wrestling was buried beneath the dust of time and deliberate forgetting. Still, for fans who watched during that era, Dino Bravo remains unforgettable. His story, dark and controversial, stands as one of the clearest examples of how WWE chooses what deserves to be remembered, and what it prefers to erase. Cade, WWE's prodigy who was ultimately cast aside. With ideal height, striking looks, and a pedigree from the training school of legend Shawn Michaels, Cade was once seen as one of WWE's brightest prospects in the 2000s. He didn't just have the in-ring skills, he had the right guidance, too. On paper, it seemed like the perfect formula for a future main event star. Cade officially joined WWE in 2003, but it wasn't until he teamed up with Trevor Murdoch in 2005 that he really began to make waves. The two quickly became a formidable heel duo, capturing the World Tag Team Championships 3 times and making a mark with their gritty, no-nonsense style. Still, both fans and insiders believed Cade was capable of more. That potential seemed to be finally realized in 2008, when he was paired with Chris Jericho in a major storyline. Suddenly, Cade was featured in high-profile segments and had the chance to compete against top-tier talent, even scoring a victory over his former mentor, Shawn Michaels, live on Raw. It felt like the big break he'd been working toward. But just as his career was gaining momentum, it came to a sudden halt. In October 2008, WWE announced his release. No warning, no clear explanation. Only later did Jim Ross reveal the truth. Cade had suffered a seizure on a plane due to painkiller abuse. WWE immediately severed ties, treating the incident as a cautionary tale, but offered no support, no rehab, no path to recovery. Though he was quietly re-signed in 2009, Cade was never brought back to TV and was released again in early 2010. Just a few months later, on August 13th, he was found dead at age 29 from heart failure, the result of years of painkiller use and an untreated enlarged heart condition. WWE responded with silence. No tribute, no on-air mention, no moment of remembrance. Even Shawn Michaels, the man who trained and worked closely with Cade, remained silent. A young talent died, worn down by the pressures of the job and the company's neglect. But rather than take responsibility, WWE chose to turn its back. Another casualty of the very system they built, and another name quietly buried in the shadows. Umaga, the tragic end of a forgotten monster. Eddie Fatu, better known as Umaga, was once one of WWE's most intimidating figures in the 2000s. With a wild appearance, a brutally aggressive style, and the presence of an unstoppable force, Umaga quickly rose to main event status, facing top names like John Cena, Triple H, and Bobby Lashley. In the ring, he was the Samoan bulldozer, an unstoppable wrecking machine. But behind the spotlight, Umaga's life was a storm of chaos and struggle. Despite holding the Intercontinental Championship and competing in high-profile matches, his personal issues, especially related to substance abuse, slowly pulled him into darkness. In 2007, he was suspended for violating WWE's wellness policy. At the time, many thought it was just a temporary setback. But after a second violation in 2009, and refusing to attend rehab, WWE terminated his contract. After leaving WWE, Umaga continued wrestling on the independent circuit, but his health and personal life never recovered. The combination of inner demons and heavy prescription drug use caused his body to deteriorate quickly. On December 4, 2009, Umaga died suddenly at age 36 after suffering 2 heart attacks. His death was ruled an overdose involving multiple substances. It was a devastating end for a talent who had once dominated WWE's main stage. But instead of honoring or remembering him, WWE stayed silent. No tribute, no on-air mention, no moment of respect. He was erased, as if he had never existed. Why? Likely because of the fractured relationship with the company before his death, and the sensitive nature of how he died. Despite once being a major rival to John Cena and a standout Intercontinental Champion, Umaga has been almost entirely wiped from WWE's history, simply because he didn't fall the right way. Ludwig Borga, the Finnish powerhouse WWE erased from memory. When it comes to wrestlers, WWE deliberately distances itself from. Ludwig Borga is one of the clearest examples. He wasn't involved in major scandals or backstage chaos, yet the company still chose to forget him. In the early 90s, WWE was searching for a powerful new heel to go toe-to-toe with stars like Bret Hart, The Undertaker, and Lex Luger. Enter Tony Khan, a former boxer, MMA fighter, and bodybuilder, who debuted in WWE as Ludwig Borga, a cold, arrogant, anti-American brute. From his 1993 debut, Borga was pushed hard as an unstoppable force. It didn't take long for him to end Tatanka's 2-year undefeated streak, a major moment at the time. WWE even planned a massive showdown between Borga and Lex Luger at WrestleMania X, a huge opportunity for a newcomer. But fate had other plans. In early 1994, Borga suffered a serious ankle injury that forced him out of ongoing storylines. Rather than wait for his recovery, WWE simply moved on. No explanation, no second chance, just silence and release. From that point on, Borga was practically erased from WWE's history. He's never mentioned in highlight reels, retrospectives, or lists of iconic foreign heels, despite being a major player during his short run. The real reason wasn't just the injury. After leaving WWE, Tony Khan's life spiraled. He entered politics in Finland, becoming a far-right parliament member known for extremist views and controversial statements. He also struggled with drug issues, violent outbursts, and increasingly severe mental health problems. In 2010, it all came crashing down. On January 8, Khan died by suicide at his home. A gunshot wound ended his life at age 47. WWE remained absolutely silent. No post, no tribute, no acknowledgement, as if he'd never existed. To WWE, Ludwig Borga was a failed experiment, a character they once pushed, but later chose to bury. His story stands as proof of how the company treats those who almost made it, but didn't follow the script. For the fans who still remember, Ludwig Borga was a unique force in the early 90s, a true threat. But one injury, one misstep, and a lifetime of being forgotten was all it took to vanish from WWE's version of history. Shawn OHara, the wild talent WWE quietly threw away. Shawn OHara had everything WWE looks for in a superstar: tall, muscular, athletic, and with a mysterious, magnetic presence. He was the kind of performer who made you look twice when he stepped onto the stage, a mix of menace and charm, power and agility. Yet despite all that potential, WWE never truly gave him the chance to shine. And when he passed away, the company chose silence, as if he had never been part of their history. OHara began his wrestling career in WCW as part of the Natural Born Thrillers, a group of promising young talent seen as the next generation. Standing over 6 feet 6 inches and weighing nearly 280 pounds, OHara wasn't just another big man. He moved like someone half his size. He could pull off high-flying moves like the Swanton Bomb with shocking ease, a rarity for someone of his build. When WWE acquired WCW in 2001, OHara was expected to be one of the breakout stars in the new era. But while names like Booker T, Rey Mysterio, and Chavo Guerrero quickly found their footing, OHara was sent back down to developmental. He re-emerged in 2003 with a bold new character, a dark, manipulative figure who whispered into others' ears, encouraging them to give in to their worst impulses. It was a fresh, compelling idea, and WWE even paired him with legend Roddy Piper, a sign they had serious plans. But just months later, Piper was released, and OHara's character quietly vanished along with him. By 2004, WWE ended his contract with no clear explanation. And like many before him, Shawn OHara faded away, quietly, tragically, and far too soon. After WWE, he bounced around smaller promotions, dabbled in MMA and kickboxing, but never found lasting direction. He struggled with mental health issues, had multiple run-ins with the law, and seemed to be sinking further into darkness, with no one there to pull him back. On September 9, 2014, Shawn OHara was found dead in his bedroom. He had taken his own life by hanging. He was just 43. His father later confirmed that Shawn had battled depression for years and had sought treatment multiple times, without success. And WWE said nothing. No public condolences. No tribute. No mention on any platform. Maybe because OHara was never a top-tier star. Maybe because of how he died. Either way, WWE once again turned its back on a man who had all the tools to become great, only to be discarded and forgotten, as if he never existed. Chris and Nancy Benoit, two names erased from WWE forever. No conversation about forgotten tragedies in WWE is complete without mentioning the darkest chapter of all, the story of Chris and Nancy Benoit. Chris Benoit was once the epitome of technical wrestling. A former world champion, respected by his peers, loved by fans for his intense fighting spirit and vicious submission holds. The image of him and Eddie Guerrero embracing at the end of WrestleMania XX remains one of WWE's most emotional moments. But everything unraveled in June 2007. When news first broke of Benoit's death, WWE dedicated an entire episode of Raw to his memory, replaying matches and sharing heartfelt tributes from fellow superstars. But within hours, the horrifying truth emerged. Chris had murdered his wife Nancy and their 7-year-old son Daniel before taking his own life. WWE's response was immediate and absolute. Every trace of Benoit was scrubbed from existence. His matches were removed from archives, His name vanished from championship records, and even the 2004 Royal Rumble made no mention of who won. WWE treated him as if he had never existed. And in doing so, they erased Nancy Benoit too. Before she was a victim, Nancy was a major figure in ECW and WCW. Known as Woman, she managed stars like the Sandman, Ric Flair, and the Four Horsemen. Her contributions were undeniable, yet WWE has never honored her. No Hall of Fame induction, no tribute, no mention. Many in the industry believe Nancy deserves recognition independent of her husband's horrific actions. But WWE has refused to go near the tragedy, choosing instead to stay silent permanently. The Benoit tragedy left a scar too deep for WWE to revisit. It stands as a chilling reminder: no matter how bright your star once burned, everything can be erased overnight, when the truth behind the curtain is too horrifying to face. They may have been forgotten by WWE, but to us, the true fans, their stories deserve to be told. If you believe the truth shouldn't be buried, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss more untold chapters from the darker side of wrestling that WWE doesn't want you to see.